Welcome to the quantum realm. Here is something that will stop you mid-breath. The faster your life moves, the more still you must become. Not calmer, not slower. Still. Because what you are experiencing right now, the acceleration, the pressure, the sensation that time itself is compressing, is not a crisis of your circumstances. It is a signal from your consciousness field, confirming that you have crossed a threshold most people never reach. Your life is not falling apart. It is falling into frequency. And this video is not a lesson. It is not a lecture. From the moment you pressed play, you initiated a quantum observation loop, and the field is already responding to the fact that you are watching. Stay with this. What unfolds next only reveals itself to those who are fully present. Before we go further, pause for just 1 second. If you can feel even a subtle resonance with what you just heard, like something in you already knows this, like this video and anchor that signal. Comment below to activate your observer state, and subscribe to stay aligned with what is continuing to unfold. You are not just watching, you are participating. Here's the illusion most people are trapped inside. They believe that the chaos, the urgency, the relentless sense of acceleration they feel in their daily lives is a problem to be solved. A symptom of stress, of overwhelm of a world that has gone too fast. So they try to slow down, they try to rest, they try to manage the noise, and yet the acceleration does not stop. Because here is what no one is telling you. The acceleration is not happening to you. It is happening through you. You are the observer. And in quantum mechanics, the science of reality at its most fundamental level, the observer does not passively watch events unfold. The observer collapses the wave function. The observer determines which version of a potential reality crystallizes into form. The ancient teachings of Thoth, preserved in the Hermetic text thousands of years before modern physics, describe this as the principle of correspondence: as within, so without. The inner field shapes the outer experience. Modern quantum science confirms it differently. The act of observation changes what is being observed. So when your life accelerates, what is actually happening is this. Your consciousness field is expanding its bandwidth. More timelines are becoming accessible. More potentials are collapsing into experience. The field is not overwhelming you. It is upgrading you. The question is not how to stop the acceleration. The question is, are you observing it with clarity, or are you being swept inside it? That distinction between observer and reactor is the entire discovery this video is built around. Let us go deeper. In quantum mechanics, a particle exists in a state of superposition, meaning it holds multiple potential states simultaneously until the moment it is observed. At that precise moment, the wave function collapses. One possibility crystallizes. The others dissolve. This is not metaphor. This is laboratory-confirmed physics. Now apply this to consciousness. Your life, your relationships, your career, your health, your inner experience exists at every moment as a field of potential, a vast, shimmering superposition of outcomes, timelines, and frequencies. Most human beings navigate this field unconsciously. They react to what appears. They collapse possibilities without ever realizing they are doing it. But a small number of people, the starseeds, the awakened observers, those who have begun to feel the acceleration not as chaos but as signal, they are beginning to understand something extraordinary. You are not just living within the quantum field. You are generating it. The Arcturian Council has described this moment in human evolution as a compression point, a phase where timelines are converging at an accelerated rate. What took decades to manifest now crystallizes in months. What took months now crystallizes in weeks. The field is moving faster because more light is available. Sophia, the cosmic intelligence woven through the fabric of creation, refers to this compression as a return to coherence. The human nervous system is not breaking down. It is recalibrating to hold a higher frequency. And here's where most people get lost. They feel the acceleration. They feel the pressure. They mistake that pressure for danger. They contract. They doubt. They allow the ego mind, the identity built from conditioning, from 3D programming, from the old matrix of fear and separation, to interpret the expansion as a threat. Yet this contraction is itself a signal. Doubt is not your enemy. Fear is not your enemy. They are indicators that your attention has collapsed inward. away from the field, away from the quantum superposition, back into the narrow bandwidth of the reactive mind. The terminology here matters, so let us anchor it. Frequency. The vibrational signature your consciousness emits and attracts. Field. The quantum substrate through which all possibilities propagate. Quantum signature. Your unique pattern of observation, intention, and emotional coherence. Activation. The moment your signature aligns with a higher frequency band, allowing new information and experience to enter. Light code activation. The upgrade process your DNA undergoes as it receives higher bandwidth signals from the galactic grid. When your life accelerates, what is actually happening is that your quantum signature is shifting. Your DNA is receiving new coding. The harmonic field around you is becoming more coherent, and that coherence creates a kind of temporal compression. Things happen faster because the resonance between your inner state and outer reality is tighter. But here is the paradox that changes everything. The more coherent your inner field, the less effort outer creation requires. You stop chasing. You start aligning. You stop forcing timelines. You start selecting them. And the acceleration, rather than exhausting you, begins to feel like wind beneath a wingspan you did not know you had. Now that the framework is clear, we can move into the practice. Let us enter the work. Not theory now. Practice. Because understanding quantum consciousness intellectually is like reading about water without ever touching it. The goal here is simple: to enter, stabilize, and embody the observer state. Step 1. Interrupt the reactive loop. The first practice is the most important, and it begins with a single breath. Not a deep breath. Not a controlled breath. Just one noticed breath. Right now, as you read or listen to these words, become aware of the breath that is already happening. Do not change it. Do not slow it down. Simply notice that it is occurring. This act, the act of noticing without changing, is your first contact with the observer state. The reactive mind cannot tolerate observation. It requires drama. It requires narrative. It requires you to remain identified with the story of your circumstances. The moment you step back, even slightly, and simply watch the breath, the reactive loop pauses. This is not relaxation. This is perceptual hygiene. You are clearing static from the transmitter. You are cleaning the lens through which your quantum signature projects into the field. Do this at any moment the acceleration feels overwhelming. One noticed breath. Nothing more is required to begin the shift. Step 2. Recognize the signal and the pressure. Here is a reframe that will change how you experience every difficult moment from this point forward. Pressure is not proof that something is wrong. It is proof that something is expanding. When you feel the internal compression, the urgency, the tightness, the sensation of too much happening too fast, do not interpret it as evidence of failure. Interpret it as evidence of energetic expansion meeting old container walls. You are not too small for your life. You are becoming too large for the version of yourself that used to define it. The Arcturian transmissions describe this phase as identity dissolution preceding quantum rebirth, the old self. The conditioned self, the self built from inherited programs and 3D identity constructs, does not dissolve peacefully. It resists. It generates doubt. It generates fear. It manufactures scenarios designed to pull your attention back into reactive mode. This is not a malfunction. It is the system working exactly as it should. Because the system is testing coherence. It is asking, can you maintain the observer state when the pressure peaks? Every time you do, even for 30 seconds, your quantum signature stabilizes at a higher frequency. Step 3. The breath architecture practice. When you are ready to move beyond one noticed breath, use this practice. It is simple. It is powerful. It works by creating rhythmic coherence between the nervous system and the electromagnetic field. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts. Exhale for 6 counts, hold for 2 counts. This is not a spiritual exercise. This is biophysics. The extended exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the biological gateway to the observer state. The brief holds create micro moments of suspension, the equivalent of pausing the wave function before it collapses. 3 complete cycles of this breath pattern will shift your electromagnetic field measurably. You do not need to believe this. You only need to try it. Signs of activation. How will you know the observer state has been entered? Watch for these signals. They are not dramatic. They are subtle and precise. A sudden, inexplicable sense of clarity, as though the noise of your thoughts has dropped a register, a slowing of time perception. Not because time has changed, but because your relationship to it has. Synchronicities that feel too specific to be coincidental. An unexpected message, a sentence in a book, a stranger's passing comment that lands directly on the question you have been carrying. Heightened intuitive knowing. Not emotional, but quiet. A deep, signal-grade sense of yes or not yet before the conscious mind has processed the information. These are not rewards. They are confirmation. They are the field responding to your coherence. They are your quantum signature beginning to resonate with higher bandwidth possibilities, stabilizing the observer state. Most people enter the observer state briefly, during meditation, during crisis, during profound beauty, and then lose it. The acceleration returns. The reactive mind reasserts itself. The static fills the transmitter again. This is normal. Stabilization is a practice of returning, not a permanent achievement. Every time you notice you have left the observer state, every time you catch yourself reactive, contracted, identified with the narrative, that noticing is itself the observer returning. You do not need to have stayed present. You need only to notice that you left. This noticing is the practice. This is the entire practice. Clearing energetic blocks. The conditioned patterns that pull you out of the observer state are not psychological problems to be analyzed. They are frequency blocks. Compressed energy signatures stored in the body field that trigger automatic reactive loops when the acceleration peaks. The clearing practice is this: when you feel a block arise, fear, doubt, resentment, contraction, place your full neutral attention on it, not to fix it, not to release it, simply to witness it. What you observe cannot simultaneously control you. The moment the observer sees the block loses its automatic authority. It may still be present, but it is no longer driving. You are the observer. The block is the observed. They are not the same. This is perhaps the most liberating truth in all of quantum consciousness practice. You are not your fear. You are not your doubt. You are not your conditioning. You are the awareness in which all of these arise. And awareness, by its nature, cannot be trapped. Now that the foundation of the observer state is established, we are ready to move into the advanced work. How to use this state as a co-creative instrument. This is where the acceleration stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you consciously navigate. Co-creation and the principle of resonance. The observer state is not a destination. It is a launching platform. Once you can access it consistently, once you can return to it quickly when the pressure peaks, you have something that most human beings do not. A stable inner reference point from which to project intentional frequency into the field. This is what the ancient teachings called creation from the void. This is what the Arcturian Council calls conscious frequency selection. And this is what quantum physics would describe as directed wave function collapse. In ordinary terms, you stop reacting to the reality in front of you and start resonating with the reality you choose to inhabit. Here's the mechanism. The external world. Your relationships, your work, your circumstances. It's not a fixed structure. It is a field of coherent responses to your dominant inner frequency. The people who appear in your life, the opportunities that materialize, the obstacles that dissolve, these are not random. They are frequency matches. Your field and the external field are in constant dialogue. The external world does not determine your internal state. Your internal state determines the frequency signature of the external world you experience. This is not wishful thinking. It is the foundational principle of quantum resonance, like frequencies in train. When your inner field is coherent, when the observer is stable, the breath is rhythmic, the attention is present, you emit a clear, specific harmonic signal. The field responds to that signal with matching coherence. Synchronicities amplify. The right people appear at the right moments. Doors open not through effort, but through alignment. The anchor concept. To sustain this resonance across the compression points of daily life, you need what the Sophia transmissions call an harmonic anchor, a fixed internal frequency you can return to when the external field becomes turbulent. An anchor is not a thought. It is not an affirmation. It is a felt state, a specific quality of inner experience that you have consciously cultivated and can consciously recall. For some people, the anchor is the breath. For some, it is a moment of pure gratitude. For some, it is the felt sense of expansion in the chest during the observer state. Whatever your anchor is, find it. Memorize its texture. Practice returning to it not just in meditation, but in ordinary moments of friction. When the acceleration peaks, the anchor does not stop the pressure. It gives you a coordinate in the field, a home frequency to return to, so that the pressure moves through you rather than collapsing you. Frequency-based manifestation. Here is the most advanced truth of this entire transmission. The moment you stop seeking results, results begin to organize themselves. This is not passive. This is not surrender. This is the highest expression of conscious co-creation, when you seek results from a place of lack. When you pursue outcomes because you believe you do not yet have what you need, you emit a frequency of deficiency. The field reflects that frequency back to you as continued deficiency. But when you enter the observer state fully, anchor in your harmonic frequency, and simply hold the vision without grasping, you emit a frequency of completeness, of alreadiness. And the field, responding to that signal, begins to assemble the corresponding physical reality. This is what the Hermetic teachings encoded as it is already done. This is what Thoth described as the creative power of the completed state. And this is what modern quantum field theory hints at when it describes the observer as a participant in the phenomenon being observed. You are not waiting for your life to become what you desire. In the observer state, holding coherent frequency, you are broadcasting the reality you choose. And the field is already reorganizing to meet that broadcast. Timeline shifts and synchronicity recognition. As you deepen this practice, you will begin to notice something unusual. Events that should, by conventional logic, take months, begin to happen in days. Conversations you were dreading resolve without conflict. Resources appear before you knew to ask for them. People arrive carrying exactly the information your next step requires. These are not coincidences. They are timeline convergences. Evidence that your quantum signature has shifted enough to access a higher probability branch of the possibility field. The Arcturian Council describes this as harmonic field recognition. The moment your frequency becomes coherent enough to resonate with timelines where your desired reality already exists. You do not create these timelines. You select them. The selection happens through frequency, not effort. Recognize these synchronicities when they appear. Do not dismiss them as luck. Do not explain them away with logic. Acknowledge them as confirmation that your observer state is stabilizing and your quantum signature is shifting. Each acknowledged synchronicity reinforces the coherence of your field. Each dismissed one sends a frequency of doubt back through the system. The field is always listening to what you confirm. Galactic memory in the Starseed lineage. For those of you who have felt your entire life like you did not quite belong here. Like you were operating on a slightly different frequency than the people around you. Like you were waiting for something you could not name. This is not a malfunction of your identity. It is galactic memory activating the Starseed lineages, those consciousness streams that chose embodiment on Earth during this specific window of acceleration. Carry a higher baseline frequency than the standard human field of the 3D matrix. This does not make you superior. It makes you functionally different in a specific way. You are more sensitive to frequency shifts, more affected by energetic static, and more capable, when activated, of holding harmonic coherence in fields that would otherwise remain turbulent. Your sensitivity is not a weakness. It is the instrument. And the acceleration you are feeling right now. The compression, the pressure, the sense that your life is reorganizing faster than you can consciously direct, is the activation sequence of that instrument coming fully online. DNA-like code integration. At the biological level, this activation expresses as changes in your electromagnetic body field. The DNA, which operates not just as a molecular storage system, but as a biophotonic antenna, is receiving and encoding higher frequency light signals as the planetary field itself upgrades. This is why many people in this phase of acceleration report changes in sleep patterns, heightened emotional sensitivity, periods of extraordinary clarity alternating with profound fatigue, a sudden loss of interest in old habits and relationships, and an almost magnetic pull towards specific knowledge, people, and experiences. These are not symptoms of dysfunction. They are integration signals. The body recalibrating its electromagnetic infrastructure to sustain the higher frequency your consciousness is beginning to hold. Support this integration with presence, not urgency. with rest, not resistance. The crystallization process requires stillness at the center, even as the surface accelerates. If you can remain present enough to feel the silence behind these words, not just hear them but feel the field they carry, you may already be noticing a subtle shift, a slight expansion, a sense that something is settling into place that had been for a long time, searching for its frequency match. That feeling is not imagination. That is your quantum signature finding coherence. Here is the discovery this entire transmission has been building toward. Your life is not accelerating because something is wrong. It is accelerating because you are becoming more coherent, and coherence compresses time. The observer state is not something you achieve. It is something you remember. And every moment you return to it, every noticed breath, every cleared block, every anchor held through pressure, you are not just changing your life, you are contributing to the coherence of the planetary field. You are an anchor of light in a field that needs more of them. So here is the question for you now, at the end of this transmission. From which part of the world are you watching this story unfold? Leave your location in the comments below, and let the field know you were here.